auf Gefechtsstation!
Greetings, folks. Iolair here with a World of Warships replay, this time featuring myself in the Tier 10 German heavy cruiser, the Hindenburg. I am divisioned with Lynn Wilkie and Tidup, who are also in Hindenburgs. We are in a domination match on Islands of Ice, and this is being played on update 0.7.8, which is the last update before a major change to this map. Each team brings 5 battleships, 4 cruisers, and 3 destroyers to the match. As far as ship upgrades and commander skills, I have a very heavy focus on AA for my commander skills, since I do take hydroacoustic search and not defensive fire. And for upgrades, I take the hydroacoustic search special upgrade to extend the action time of hydro. And I have mounted the Hindenburg unique upgrade, and as a result, I have taken the damage control system modification 2 in slot 4, and the gunfire control systems modification in slot 6. And I'll cover here why that is shortly. Highlights for this battle will obviously focus on the influence of the unique upgrade on this vessel, both with regard to its increased resiliency and how to manage the increased detection range. So let's talk a little more about what the unique upgrade does. So the main downside, let's start with that, is that because the upgrade goes into slot 5, for most people that means giving up the concealment system upgrade. And that means that your detection at best is, or your concealment at best, is going to be 13.7 kilometers, which is very large. It's basically battleship caliber. And that means that you need to play more at distance. And this is why I take the gunfire control system modification 2 in slot 6 instead of the main battery modification 3, which I have historically taken, because I find that with the increased detection, it's harder for me to play at range successfully and be able to engage or at least get out of trouble if I happen to maybe somewhat overextend, or I'm in a situation where I need to get back into concealment. I need to be playing farther from the opponent. So that's why I take the gunfire control system upgrade. The main upside to the upgrade is that fires, floods, and downtime of your main battery when it gets incapacitated are markedly reduced. So for me and the build that I have, basically I can ignore fires. Although there will be one point very late in the battle where I will have to put out a fire because I'm very low health. But for me and my build, my fires last about 12 seconds. And at best, if I completely maxed it out, you can bring it down to 10.4 seconds. My flooding is also much shorter, to less than 20 seconds. At best, you can reduce it to 15.4 seconds. And then it also essentially cuts your main battery incapacitation time down to about 10 seconds. And so with fires and with incapacitation of your main battery, if that happens, you can basically ignore them. And there will be a number of places here where I do get set on fire, and I can basically ignore the fires. The last point of benefit of the upgrade is that it reduces the rudder shift time, or improves the rudder shift time by 20%, and that means that I can give up the steering gears modification 2 in slot 4 and take the damage control system upgrade, which again further reduces the duration of fires and flooding. So here I am. I've been set on fire by the Worcester in 2 places, and you notice that they're already about to go out. So yeah, basically fires you can ignore. In fact, I'm having to recondition myself to not reach for the damage control button when I do get set on fire when I'm playing the Hindenburg, precisely because they last for such a short amount of time. I would rather hold on to the damage control when I have something more serious, like if by some bad luck I'm set on fire in 4 places and I really am going to take a lot of fire damage very quickly, or more commonly, I take some flooding. Now, granted, the flooding is markedly reduced, and if I let the flood work out its course without using damage control, it would do about 11,000 in damage to me, which is obviously substantially less than a full-length flood, but that's still 20% of my maximum health. So floods are still serious, but if you might be in a situation where if you don't have damage control available right away, you could survive a flood, whereas maybe in the past you would not have been able to. So again, conditioning yourself not to reach for that damage control button becomes something that you kind of have to learn when you mount the unique upgrade. So let's talk about more about the gameplay at this point. So I escorted a couple of battleships, destroyers, and a cruiser down to the Charlie Cap. We had called out BC at the beginning of the battle. We had a fairly organized group of ships that did go to Charlie, but we were quite a bit more disorganized heading toward Bravo. We have a Courfirst that you can see is up on the sea line. That was very intent on going to Alpha. Fortunately, our Fletcher, which also started to head towards Alpha, did turn around and has helped us to cap Bravo. So we did get ourselves a little more organized. We did just lose the Courfirst because the opposing team did send quite a few ships to Alpha, and he basically had no counter for that. So I've tanked a fair amount of damage here at Charlie, and thankfully our Alabama and our Yamato as battleships are pushing up, which is good, and so I need to go escort them. We also know that there is an opposing destroyer that was last seen at India 7, and so I'm going to come over here to locate and take him out with the help of the Asashio. In fact, now we can see the Akizuki. So I want to get this destroyer off our flank. Now, granted, this destroyer is kind of caught out in the open. He's not really in a very good position, but he's definitely a torpedo threat to the two allied battleships that are over here. And our Asashio basically has no chance if the Akizuki engages him. The Asashio obviously does not have the gunfire power or the torpedoes to combat an Akizuki. So I've got to come over here and help get this Akizuki out of the way. Got hydro up. It's going to last well over 2 minutes, so I've got plenty of warning for any torpedoes that might be coming. And then if he decides to cut into smoke, I'll just charge him down. So the Asashio is going to get, retreat here, as he should. He doesn't want to get focused out by the Asashio. We just lost Tidup, who was up on the Bravo side. He was, I think, dev-struck by the, in fact, yeah, he was dev-struck by the opposing Yamato, which is sitting between the two islands that are just south of Alpha. Here's the Akizuki. He's almost dead now. Brought him down to the last few hit points, but the Asashio here is going to get the kill. So my apologies to Jim for having to defend an allied Asashio, but I did feel it was important to at least get the destroyer out of the way because he would also be a threat to our allied battleships. I am a little farther south than I like to be on this map because most of the action obviously now is between Alpha and Bravo, and so I'm not in a position where I can bring my DPM there, so I'm going to have to turn around and get up north. So yeah, so far I have really liked the unique upgrade. I have had to make a number of adjustments to my playstyle. Like I said, I had to increase the range. I have to give thanks to Lynn Wilkie, who's an ardent believer in the use of increasing the range as opposed to taking the increased reload, which I have historically taken the reload. I have found that definitely with the increased detection, being able to keep opponents at distance is important. And there were a few times where I played with the unique upgrade and the main battery reload, and I found that I was just too regularly essentially overextending because I would get myself into a position where I could put fire on the opponents, but then I couldn't get back into concealment if I was the focus. Even if I stopped firing with a detection range of 13.7, almost any random ship that's out there, including most cruisers, would be able to detect me without me being able to detect them potentially. So having the increased range is really necessary. So far, I haven't seen too much in terms of negativity on my damage per game. In fact, just being able to survive longer means that I can do more damage because you can't do any damage if you're dead. So the increased range has definitely been very viable for me here. So as I'm moving up the flank here, the opposing team actually has made a pretty valiant push here. They're obviously quite behind in ships and in points, but they've made a very interesting choice here to move as a group, which you should do, as a coordinated effort with the Yamato, kind of leading the way here. Although, frankly, I think the Montana probably should have been closer. But with the opposing team making a really, focused effort to push back, take the Bravo cap, and try to get themselves in a position where they can take the lead. So, a good effort by them for this purpose. Their Yamato does go down to focus fire. We're now going to concentrate on the Montana. So you'll notice also there is an opposing Des Moines at Echo 8. And he's concentrating on our Alabama, who just went down. And so now he's going to turn his attention to me. I'm going to slow here and keep my bow on the Des Moines. And I'm going to focus my effort on the Montana. So again, with keeping my bow on the Des Moines, AP is going to have little or no effect. If he does set me on fire, like I said, I'll just kind of ignore it. My goal here is to keep the opponents from taking the cap. I am a little more broadside than I would have liked to have been toward the Montana, but between either RNG or his aim and hopefully some slightly improved angling, I was able to mitigate most of the potential damage from that salvo. And now I can turn back out to get my rear guns in play because the Montana has now turned his attention to another vessel. And at this point, like I said, I'm having to ignore the Des Moines for the moment. It sets me on fire, but again, it's going to go out here very shortly. So get the Montana down, and now I have to turn my attention to the Des Moines. And frankly, he's going to win this battle. He's got twice the rate of fire that I do. I'm going to have to stay bow on because I don't want to be taking AP pens from him. My goal at this, and there's no way that I can get back into concealment with him approaching me, so the best I can do is just maximize whatever damage I can put on this ship. So I'm just going to go forward, go bow in. He is going to make, obviously, a very smart choice here to slow and not get closer to me and allow me to use my torpedo systems to finish him off. So I'm just going to go forward, bow in, maximize as much damage as I can get on him. I have another repair party coming up in a little over 20 seconds. There's one fire. And then he's going to set me on fire a second time here. And I feel compelled at this point to put this out when I normally wouldn't have because I'm not going to last much longer anyway. So just going to try to maximize the amount of damage I can do. He's the only ship left on his team, so I'm not too concerned that he's going to take me out here. Because our team is still going to win this. So I go down. So I'm going to stop the replay here because I spend the last couple of minutes of the match kind of just zooming around the map from different angles while our team gets back into a position where they can finish off the Des Moines. And we do win this match. So we'll get to the results screen. So yes, I find that the unique upgrade for the Hindenburg is definitely very useful. It does require some adjustment in the playstyle, but I do like it a lot. I don't know that it would be practical in a competitive build. I don't play competitive enough to have a good judgment of that. So if somebody does play competitive regularly, especially like in Clan Wars, whether they think the unique upgrade would be a viable choice, I'd like to hear from those folks. But certainly in randoms, it's completely viable, and it does make for interesting gameplay. So I hope you enjoyed the replay and the commentary. Please do leave your comments below. And as always, we hope to see you out there, and we wish you happy sailing.